everybody. My name is Nancy Thompson and I'm an Energy Futures project manager at SGN. And both Stephen and I are here to talk about how we're building a safety case for the energy transition. So I'll just pass you over to Stephen now.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. So, as Nancy said, we're just going to talk through what we're doing in safety in the hydrogen arena. First couple of slides is just really giving an overview of what the gas networks are doing and various groups that we're involved in around about hydrogen. So as you can see from this slide, there's various ENIC-led groups, as most people will be aware, and the base ENA HPDG groups is where we're going to really focus on, which is the Hydrogen Programme Development Group in this session. There's some subgroups of that. We've got the Network Safety and Integration Board, which we will talk about here, but there's also the System Transformation Groups, the Integrated Hydrogen Trials, and the End User Group. And these two slides, this slide really just give an overview, just to really give a feel for the amount of work that the networks are doing and the areas that we're looking at. So there's this slide and the next one, which shows a few more IGEM groups, quality working groups, and hydrogen committee, as well as the heat policy network coordination stuff, which we've just described before. That's the subgroups. We will be focusing this on the Network Safety Integration Board, and I'll now pass back across to Nancy to give a bit more detail.
Thank you. So the ENA and BASE coordinate activity through the Hydrogen Grids Research and Development Programme. As Stephen's mentioned, the programme has 4 subgroups. That's the System Transformation, Integrated Hydrogen Trials, and Safety, Network Safety and Impacts, and the End Users. So NSIB is the subgroup which we're working on, both me and Stephen, on developing the safety case. So the Integrated Hydrogen Trials will only proceed once the NSIB has addressed all the relevant safety gaps. As the integrated hydrogen trials vary in nature, the NSIB programme may still be ongoing as some of the trials proceed. However, no trial will proceed until the safety of operating that trial has been assessed, demonstrated and documented. So the work that the NSIB will do is to confirm whether the current GB gas network, which is safe for transporting natural gas, can be repurposed to safely transport 100% hydrogen. An important element of the safety evidence will be a quantitative risk assessment, a QRA, which will be based on statistically representative samples of the GB gas network. So if we just go to the next slide, this just shows the hydrogen trials that will be carried out for a specific network, and a trial-specific QRA will be delivered for each of the H105, H21, Phase 3 and HyNet homes. NSIB will builds evidence from the outputs and outcomes from the project, which will be used to generate a GB-wide QRA. The gas networks have already started and will continue to undertake the required technical work to demonstrate that the safety risk is as low as reasonably practical. That's a lot. And that hydrogen can be safely transported through the existing natural gas transmission and distribution infrastructure without an increase in overall risk to GB customers. So we'll just talk about the 2 projects now that SGN are doing, which will feed quite heavily into the NSIB. So the first one, which is on the next slide, is H100, which Stephen Tomlinson is the project manager for.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy.
So I'll just pass it back to Stephen.
Yeah, no problem. So H105 is a project that some people might be aware of. It was just recently awarded funding under Ofgem's NIC this week. Now, H105 is seeking to evidence hydrogen for heat in homes, 100% hydrogen, and also to evidence around about 80% of the 280,000 kilometres of distribution pipes in GB. But obviously we haven't just jumped in immediately to do H105. That's the safe trial. It's not the trial of safety. It's been it's been precursored by the H100 NIA suite of projects, which this slide seeks to show. So H100 NIA has put together the body of evidence that means that we know that it's now safe to continue, or we know that it will be when we start the trial, that it's going to be safe, and all the evidence that we need to gather in order to do that has been made. We've been working with other partners, H21 and Hyperheat, on various parts of H100 Fife, which is a full end-to-end turbine through to burner tip project. So some of the things we've been working on are demonstrated here. We've looked at the risk of flame visibility and whether that differs from natural gas, and we've concluded that flame visibility isn't going to be an issue with hydrogen. We've started looking at procedures and training. Pipe materials and jointing have been all the pipes and materials in H100 Fife are as in the PE network now, and they've all been tested, and we know that they are suitable for the transportation of hydrogen. We've also done work on leak detection instruments, and we've developed a new gas detection instrument on the back of that. And there's various other academic reviews of the various evidence that we've gathered. So H100 Fife is managing to continue or to move on because of all the evidence that's been gathered over the last 4 or 5 years of H100 NIA, as well as the other projects that have been ongoing, such as H21 and Hyperheat. And as Nancy's just mentioned, the evidence base that we've gathered in order to know we can go ahead and do H100 Fife has been demonstrated in our QRA and our safety case as ALAP. And that's the basis, the sort of scientific method of what we've been doing under all of our projects that lead up to the NSIB and the HPDG projects that move on through to pilots and trials and full rollout. So I'll just move on to the next slide now.
Yeah, thanks. So the next slide, this is the project that I'm looking after, which is looking at repurposing the local transmission system. So this has been called LTS Futures. So a lot of this work has been done collaboratively with the other GDNs and National Grid, and we've set up an iGEM group called LTS Futures. So the local transmission system, LTS, is the high pressure network, so above 7 bar network that is taken from the offtakes from the NTS. So the LTS Futures programme is designed to develop the safety and technical and practical evidence to support the use of hydrogen in the LTS. So the research work proposed underpins many aspects of the decarbonised pathway. So we'll provide evidence informing the network safety in order to determine the suitability of LTS network assets for hydrogen, provide the technical input to ensure decarbonisation of industrial clusters can be delivered, provide the role of the LTS in system transformation and the impact of hydrogen rollout and green recovery, and identify the requirements for compliance with safety legislation for inclusion in the safety networks safety cases. So to meet the projected hydrogen demand, new hydrogen pipelines and repurposing the current network is required. So the LTS programme will complete work to decarbonise the LTS network by providing the safety and technical evidence to install new hydrogen LTS pipelines. So this will also allow for decarbonisation of industrial clusters. Then we'll do a live hydrogen trial for repurposing an LTS pipeline. So we've earmarked this as the Granton to Grangemouth pipeline in the SGN network. So we'll hoping to do a trial on that pipeline, fill it with hydrogen to prove how we can repurpose the LTS pipelines. This will then derive a blueprint to repurpose an LTS pipeline to hydrogen, and will ensure all the gaps are filled to repurpose the current LTS network for hydrogen. So we've worked with all the other GDNs under iGEM LTS Futures group, and have reviewed all of the pipeline data and also the PRS data for the GDNs to understand the kind of materials that make up the pipelines and the assets. And this will allow us to understand how they will behave in hydrogen. So we'll do testing on, a good representation of the GB network. And the Granton to Grangemouth pipeline is from the 1970s X52 seamless pipe. So this is shown to be quite a good representation of the GB network, LTS network. So if we could just pop to the next slide. So the networks are responsible for complying with legislation and implementing best practice as detailed in the guidance documents. So each network manages and maintains a suite of management policies, procedures, and work instructions which enable safe design, safe installation, safe operation, safe maintenance of the network. This suite of documents sits within the safety management system, the SMS, which is what Stephen touched on before with what's been developed under H100. The documents may reference the legislation or guidance, but it also provides network-specific information of the implementation, including detailed roles and responsibilities within the organisation. So if we just pop to the next slide, I'm just going to talk about how safety is managed now. So the gas networks are duty holders responsible for the safety of operations from the point at which the gas is injected into their network to the point at which it is delivered to customers. As duty holders, each network has a safety case, which is a document that identifies the hazards and risks described, how the risks are controlled, and the safety management system in place to ensure that the controls are effective and consistently applied. The framework for the safety cases and the GSMR, the gas safety management regulations. Other regulations which are also relevant are shown on this slide now. So the gas networks already have working knowledge on these regulations and others as part of their current role as gas transporters. Each of the gas networks' safety case is submitted and reviewed by the HSE. The gas network may demonstrate that the level of risk is as low as reasonably practicable, like a LAR. If the practicality of installing any additional mitigation measures is disproportionately expensive compared to the level of risk reduction achieved by the measure, this demonstration would involve a cost-benefit analysis as set out in the HSE guidance. The gas networks have decades of experience operating a natural gas asset, maintaining a low risk profile. This knowledge and experience will be built upon determining how to maintain this low risk profile for a hydrogen network. And the trials are the start of developing operational experience with a hydrogen network. So that's all we had to present today. And if anybody had any further questions or discussions that they would like to raise for how we're building evidence for the safety case and how the information's flown through between BEIS, ENA, the other GDNs and National Grid as well. Oh, here we go, we've got a question. Hydrogen is more explosive than the gas, so getting it, e.g. into the basement further may be risky.
I think the key thing probably there is that, the gas networks have been dealing with a pretty explosive medium for many years, and that's what our policies and procedures are built around. Hydrogen is another one. It has different properties, and it does have different explosive properties. But then both hydrogen and natural gas are both dangerous anyway, and we've been managing them for many years very safely. So these projects and the trials that we're doing and the evidence that we're gathering is just informing and enhancing our existing procedures as much as we can to make us deal with them. So, there's a number of differences between hydrogen and natural gas. One of them is it dissipates a lot quicker as well. So it's got its own mitigations, and we actually are building in mitigations wherever necessary, where our QRAs deem them to be appropriate, as long as they're, as we've said, ALAP. And the cost to build the mitigations in isn't disproportionately expensive or prohibitive. Hopefully that goes some way to answering that.
Great, thank you, Stephen. We've got another question here from Nicholas, saying it was mentioned on one slide that detection instrumentation was in development. Is this in reference to handheld tools used by technicians who would be maintaining gas distribution lines?
So that's the personal alarm, the cams that people wear. I think that you're referring to there, and no, it isn't. But on those, we do have hydrogen versions of them too, or they are capable for hydrogen, I should say. This is a gas detection instruments for if there's, say, a leak in the street or someone's phoned in a leak, then this is the instrument that you would take out to the street to find where that leak's coming from and to track that gas. That's been developed and it's performing very well, and it's nearing its qualification.
Okay, thank you.
I see there's another question there, was there?
Do you want to? So we have John Key. How are you coping with the challenge of coordinating multiple stakeholders from different perspectives, all trying to help? In Aberdeen, for example, it seems that there are a very large number of public and private stakeholders working together: BP, Shell, Royal Mail, local government. It must be a challenge.
Yeah, it certainly is a challenge, and I can't read that question, but I think I heard it all there. Thank you. It is a challenge. We have a pretty comprehensive stakeholder plan already, which will be further developed. We also have a stakeholder group that now the project's an H105 project is awarded funding. That stakeholder group will now meet probably every 2 months or quarterly to manage everyone's concerns and to understand everyone's input. But no, it is a big challenge, the stakeholder and customer and consumer engagement, right from the actual consumers whose homes we are going to be putting hydrogen into, up through to Fife Council and all the government groups and all the networks and the project participants, such as the boiler manufacturers and the other appliance manufacturers. It is a large piece of work, but we're managing it well, and to be honest, there's a lot of interest in the project. So on the whole, people are really keen to be a part of the project and to input positively into it.
Thank you. We have another question from John Key again. He was just asking, to what extent is the UK gas sector working with counterparts in Europe and elsewhere in the world?
The ENA groups are, keeping an eye on what's happening in the other European companies. We also have like groups such as like the pipeline safety group, which is in Europe, like a group that a European group which GDNs can sit on. So we are keeping up to date with what other GDNs or other gas networks are doing in Europe. It's quite a large influx of information going backwards and forwards. So there is a pipeline in that Gas Unie in the Netherlands, what has been repurposed, the natural gas pipeline that has been repurposed for hydrogen. I think it's a 30% blend hydrogen with natural gas, and it goes between two industrial customers. So yeah, and we're taking a lot of learning that's happening as well. Germany are repurposing a medium pressure pipeline which goes to 4 customers, again industrial, to 100% hydrogen, and we're taking learnings from there. And the gaps that we've identified in our knowledge for hydrogen, we're sharing with the European gas networks to understand what they've done to fill in those gaps or what mitigations they have done and built their safety case.
Great, and thank you, Stephen and Nancy. Very interesting, and thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.